college track and field is back, and that means we are just a few weeks away from crowning a brand new national champion. But I've also come to realize that this sport is so predictable that we might as well be watching a Fast and Furious movie. The Florida Gators men won an outdoor NCAA title in 2023, which makes that the 6th time they've done it in the last 11 years. If you're keeping score at home, that means they win more than half of the time. And the women's side ain't much better because the Lady Longhorns of Texas won the outdoor title in 2023, which was the first time they'd done it since 2005. But they'd also been the runner-up twice within the past decade. And if you watch my channel, then you know that I love track and field, especially at the college level. So I am aware that whatever I'm about to say is likely going to upset some people, and I'm willing to accept the consequences. Because as far as I'm concerned, college track and field already had a problem, because all of the top programs suck up all of the best talent and put it in their uniforms. It's the reason why Sha'Carri Richardson, Aaliyah Hobbs, and Micaiah Briscoe all won NCAA titles in the 100-meter dash, representing LSU in 3 consecutive years. But the transfer portal is here now, and it has taken a college track and field world that was already very imbalanced and ruined it. Not just for the little guy, but for everyone, and I'll prove it to you. The truth is that the portal is here, and it's likely not going anywhere. But whenever one rule changes, it's almost always done with somebody specific in mind, and everyone else will just have to deal with the consequences. So no matter who you are, what college you compete for, or even what division you're in, the transfer portal is likely going to affect you, and not in a good way. Because trust me, no athlete and no team is safe, and this is why. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. Allow me to go over the facts as we know them, because the transfer portal really had nothing to do with track and field. I'm not here to make a fuss about nothing. I actually care about you, and I care about the sport, which is why I put in very real time trying to understand this mess. And I'm pretty sure the system we have in place right now can't keep going quite like this. At the moment I'm recording this video, Favor Ashe of Auburn is the NCAA leader in the 60-meter dash. DeAndre Swind is ranked 2nd, and Jalen Drayden is ranked 5th. They both represent Texas Tech, and all 3 men I just mentioned are transfers from somewhere else in D1. And it ain't just the men. On the women's side, Alyssa Colbert is ranked 2nd in all of D1 in the 60 as well. She also represents Texas Tech. Samira Killebrew and Jasmine Montgomery from Texas A&M and Florida as well are both also ranked inside the top 10. All these athletes left one D1 program to go to another, but half of them did it within the same conference. But Dario Matau was a 100-meter dash finalist in NCAA Division II, but he now runs for Auburn in the SEC. I only gave you names from the top of the leaderboards in one event. To make it very clear, I'm not making this up. The transfer portal was invented for one real reason: high-level Division I FBS football. Getting on the field as a freshman is really hard to do when a team has 85 full-ride scholarships and 11 players out there at a time. So many players ended up redshirting because they weren't getting on the field anyway, and then they would end up with a 5th year of eligibility after they had graduated, which would often become a grad transfer year. After a while, your 4th year on campus became an unofficial audition for you to play somewhere else in D1 for just about all the players. Throw in some medical redshirts and the need for a new head coach to revamp a roster overnight, because winning and the college football money that comes with it depend on it. Then you get the perfect storm that created a desire for the transfer portal. That is why everyone at that level was on board with it. Coaches could now flip a roster immediately, and players could enter the portal after the fall season ended. and shop for a new scholarship without having to sit out a redshirt year. They could even end up on campus in time enough for the spring practices at another school. We saw this with Deion Sanders and Colorado this year, when more than half their roster suddenly turned over, and they even looked like they could compete for a national title, at least at first. And I bring all of this up because none of it has anything to do with how a successful college track team actually functions in D1. There's a whole bunch of problems that I could point out, but allow me to focus on one of them for a moment. Track and field doesn't have an off season, at least not legitimately. Cross country, indoor, and outdoor occur throughout the entire calendar. That means there's only two ways to enter the portal now. Either A, you wait till the end of the season in June, when most of the scholarship dollars are already spoken for. Or the other option, you simply quit on your team while the season is still going and enter the portal anyway. And remember when I said that college track and field is very predictable? It's not because most of the coaches don't care about winning. D1 track and field isn't like football. You don't get 85 scholarships to give out to the whole team. Not one team in FBS football doesn't plan on using all of their 85 scholarships. But in track and field, you only get 12.6 for the men and 18 for the women. And all the teams ain't using all that money. Even the legitimate teams who do have more than 40 athletes on the team. So it's simple math, they ain't all getting full rides. But most schools, like I just said, don't max out all the scholarship money. If you're a head coach in D1, depending on where you are, you get what you get from your administration, and you don't get upset about it. You simply have to make it work. So if you are one of the coaches who gets the maximum amount of money, you had better use it to win, or else. When I was an NCAA head coach, I attended a certification class where one of the instructors was a big-time coach in the SEC. I'm not saying any names, but what he told us flat out was that at his level, there are certain meets on the calendar that they have to do well at. Otherwise, they don't get to keep their jobs. So with all the money his school spends on track, that most schools flat out don't have, losing is quite simply not an option. And I mean that literally, because his job depends on it. That's why the top programs try to hoard as much of the talent as they can. And I don't know how to say this part without it coming out harsh. So I'ma just come out and say it. Many big-time coaches can't afford to make developing your talent a primary focus of their job. They might just have to win the next meet in order to keep their jobs. So the goal starts to become, find the best athletes you can and put them on the track as fast as you can. If at any moment somebody else appears to be a better option, you put them on the track instead. And remember, it's really hard for an athlete to run big PRs when you're not really on the track enough to run in the first place. I'm not saying that big-time coaches don't actually coach. What I am saying is that if you're not helping that big-time coach win right now, you're probably not going to get coached that much. And the transfer portal lets them go shopping for somebody else to replace you. So they are not committed to you because they don't have to be. In fact, some of them can't afford to be. If you start losing and the coach is feeling the pressure, you might be strongly motivated to hit the portal. And if you did the math equation with the scholarships, you should be aware now that getting track and field scholarship money is really hard to do. So if you choose to walk away from it, there's no guarantee that you're getting it anywhere else. You don't enter the portal with the promise that somebody else is going to pick you up. Now, of course, if you're the NAIA national champion, like Zaquan Lincoln was in the 200-meter dash, and you hit the portal, then yeah, somebody's probably going to give you a shot. But that's not most recruits. You could end up with nowhere to run and no money to do it at all. I do totally understand why athletes at smaller schools may want to hit the portal. You could end up at a school with better facilities, maybe even better gear, might even be better everything, but it could also jack up your career, because up until now, all the coaches at the smaller schools had no choice but to coach you up, because that was the only way they had a shot at competing at a national championship. You don't get to win big at a smaller program if you can't take 2 or 3-star recruits whom nobody else really wanted and coach them up to compete at a high level. Those diamonds in the rough that nobody else was interested in even looking for will help you win conference championships and eventually qualify for national championships. But the portal actually tells them that if they do their jobs well enough, you might choose to leave anyway at the first chance that you get to become a free agent for all the schools who didn't even want you in the first place. So put yourself in that coach's shoes. Why should I give all my energy to trying to make you better if you're gonna abandon me at the first chance that you get? So coaches at all of the smaller schools, which is like 90% of all the teams that run track in college, are losing a lot of incentive to coach you to be the best that you can. And you don't have to believe me on this part, but I'm gonna say it anyway. If you are a 2 or 3-star recruit, you probably could compete with the 4 and 5-star kids anyway. If you had better coaching, you just have to stick with that good coach, the one who actually wanted you on the team, back when nobody else wanted to put in the work. I am not saying that the option to transfer schools is always a bad thing, but be careful what you wish for if you actually do it. Zaquan Lincoln of Indiana Tech was a champion at the NAIA level in the 200-meter dash. That was in 2022. So after winning, he transferred up to D1 to run for South Florida in the American Conference. He hasn't made an NCAA championship yet, and he hasn't won any conference medals. He hasn't even run a legitimate PR in a full season in D1. I'm rooting for him to get back to what he was, and I'm sure he's putting in the work to do it. But the coaches who believed in him originally probably also had big plans for him, but he chose to leave for a new team that probably didn't even want him a few years ago. The transfer portal is a thing, and it can be a great benefit to change teams and change colleges. But here is my advice. Think long and hard before you choose to change schools, because there is always a reason why they didn't want you before. And the fact that they care about you now doesn't mean that they care anywhere near as much as the coach who believed in you all along in the first place. SCA track and field gear is here. Fast is a lifestyle, and what you wear should reflect that. Order yours at scarecruiting.com/shop or use the link in the description below. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.